Number 10. White Island. One of the most phenomenal abandoned places in the world was once the site of a horrific mining disaster. I'm talking about White Island in New Zealand, which in September of 1914 was the epicenter of a deadly collapse because of a volcanic mud flow that killed 10 sulfur miners. Only one survivor walked away from this terrifying incident, along with a single cat that had been living at the mining camp. According to the Auckland Museum, disaster struck when the crater wall collapsed, and all the miners inside were swallowed by a sudden volcanic mud flow. After the disaster, mining was phased out. By 1936, the island was purchased by a man named George Buddle, and in 1953, the island was declared as a private scenic reserve. To this day, the island is still owned by George's family, but nobody lives there. White Island is still a volatile place with the most active volcano in all of New Zealand just a few miles from the shore. It was also the scene of a deadly eruption in 2019. At 2:10, everything was quiet. At 2:11, there was a massive stack of smoke in the sky. 22 people were killed, 25 people were hit with injuries, and the air was heavy with toxic gases. It was an extremely unfortunate incident, but a very strong reminder of why people should not be living on volcanoes, or really being anywhere near them. Have you ever encountered a live, active volcano? Where? When? What was it like? Tell me about it in the comments below. Then be sure to subscribe to Talltanic if you haven't already to get notified about new videos just like this one. Number 9. The New World Mall. Go anywhere in the United States and you can find an abandoned mall. Abandoned malls are literally all over the place. This is especially true in the West, where online shopping is gradually destroying in-store shopping. But if you look to the East, you can also find abandoned shopping centers. The most mysterious abandoned shopping complex of all is definitely the New World Mall Bangkok, which is now more of a lake than a shopping facility. This shopping center was built in the 1980s, but it was forced to shut down in 1997 because of a breach of building regulations. According to the Bangkok Post, the company that constructed the mall had defied building regulators and made it too large. The building was only supposed to be 4 stories tall, and so it ended up that the top 7 floors of the mall were knocked down to make it shorter. Then, in 1999, it was set on fire, which left it completely roofless. But it gets even weirder than that. Because there was no roof, rainwater began to fill the building. The massive mall then turned into an enormous lake. But in Bangkok, that much water means a mosquito infestation. The locals living nearby began to experience serious problems because of billions of mosquitoes buzzing around all day. To combat this issue, the locals filled the mall with koi fish. To this very day, the New World Mall is a giant koi pond. Number 8. Wizard of Oz Theme Park. Next up on the list is not only a mysterious abandoned place, but also one of the creepiest. In North Carolina in the 1970s, somebody thought it would be a good idea to open a Land of Oz theme park. The whole idea behind this place was for people to have an authentic Wizard of Oz experience by playing the role of Dorothy themselves. The visitors to the park would walk the yellow brick road, they would be flung about by a fake tornado, and at the end of the journey, they would be in Emerald City. This seems like an extremely fun adventure, but then again, maybe not. The Land of Oz was indeed a top attraction during its first year of operation, but in the following years, people didn't quite feel the same way. It's one of those things that's only exciting the first time. And even during your first visit, the park was still a little creepy. Just 10 years after it opened, the Land of Oz theme park closed in 1980. Today, it's an abandoned ruin that is popular with urban explorers visiting North Carolina. If you're looking to be thoroughly freaked out by one of the most mysterious and unnerving abandoned parks in the US, it's definitely the place to go. For whatever reason, none of the attractions have been destroyed or removed, and everything is still just the way it was in the 1970s when the park was still open. Number 7. Bombay Beach. Just how Bombay Beach managed to be such an absolute disaster is a bit of a mystery. Bombay Beach went from a popular tourist destination to an apocalyptic wasteland, and years later to an art community full of hippies. Let's start at the beginning for Bombay Beach. It's often considered the creepiest abandoned place in all of California, and it's for good reason. The town is on the shore of the Salton Sea, which in 1905 was accidentally flooded by engineers who allowed the water from the Colorado River to pour into it for 2 full years. The result was a massive and very attractive lake, and people immediately took advantage of it. Hotels were built, houses went up, and it became the Salton Riviera. But by 1970, the lake had become so unbearably polluted that nobody wanted to visit anymore. The fish began to die, they washed ashore, and the entire area stank like dead animals. The sudden resort community went down in flames. A visit to Bombay Beach today will afford you views of a short-lived boomtown, most of which has simply been left to rot. But there is hope. According to an article from The Road Trippers, artists have begun moving into Bombay Beach and are trying to transform the ghostly and honestly eerie town into a thriving art culture. But what the future holds for this place is still a mystery. Number 6. Frankenstein's real-life castle. This tale has a lot to do with a woman named Mary Shelley, who, as you may know, wrote the most famous horror novel of all time about 200 years ago. I'm of course talking about the book Frankenstein. And while many people are familiar with the first popular female horror author, the actual story of Frankenstein predates Mary Shelley by several centuries. And that brings us to our abandoned castle. Overlooking the small German city of Darmstadt, the ruins of a real-life Frankenstein castle still stand, abandoned and in total disrepair. The structure has been on that hilltop since sometime in the 13th century. And depending on which historian you ask, the castle was the original inspiration for Mary Shelley's phenomenal novel. This castle was constructed by Lord Conrad II Rise of Bruberg around 1250. He actually named the castle Frankenstein Castle, which in German means Stone of the Franks, which refers to the ancient Germanic tribe. But the legend of the castle and its dark history came later, when Johann Conrad Dippel was born in 1673. This guy became an alchemist and created a special elixir known as Dippel's Oil. He created the elixir using animal bones and other mysterious ingredients, and it was used all the way until World War II as a chemical warfare agent. By pouring the bizarre concoction into a source of drinking water, it would render the water undrinkable. During this strange alchemist's life, there were many mysterious reports about him practicing anatomy along with his alchemy. Rumors say that Dippel would exhume corpses and then perform strange experiments on them. How much of this is true? We will probably never know. In any case, the castle was eventually abandoned, at least until 1978, when a local Halloween festival began to take place on the property. Number 5. Petra. Petra is one of the best-known ancient sites on Earth. It's located in modern Jordan and is visited by thousands of people every year. But not many people know the true history of Petra, which was actually abandoned in the 8th century. Before that, it had a very rich history. The city was originally a trading post used by the ancient Nabateans, who ruled the region during the 4th century BC. The Nabateans acquired mass amounts of wealth by trading through the city, and then the Greek Empire attacked it in 312 BC, though they never succeeded in capturing the city. The mountains were too much for them to pass, and they were beaten off. According to History.com, it wasn't until the Romans invaded Petra in 106 AD that the Nabateans began to fade away. The Romans then ruled the city for 250 years until an earthquake destroyed most of its buildings. The Byzantines eventually took over control of it, and they then ruled Petra for 300 years. But in the beginning of the 8th century AD, Petra was completely and mysteriously abandoned. For the next few hundred years, this impressive ancient structure was only used by nomadic sheep herders as a form of shelter. It was completely lost to the desert for unknown reasons until 1812, when a Swiss explorer rediscovered it. Since then, it's been a popular historic site for tourists all across the world. Number 4. Salina Turoda. Salina Turoda was once an enormous underground salt mine in Romania. Today, it's the largest salt mine museum in the world. It's located in the mysterious region of Transylvania, and it's home to the deepest and most incredible theme park ever. There is now a science fiction-themed park located over 300 feet below the surface of the Earth inside one of the oldest and most bizarre salt mines ever. Salt began to be extracted from the site during the Roman occupation of ancient Romania, using pickaxes, hammers, and chisels, the old-fashioned way. People who worked at the mine were paid with loaves of bread. Then, after thousands of years of use, the mine was closed and abandoned in 1932. It was used shortly after its original abandonment as a bomb shelter during the war. It was in 1992 that the salt mine opened as a tourist attraction, complete with a Ferris wheel, rowboats, mini-golf, and so much more. After 2,000 years of history, the salt mine has turned into an underground theme park. Number 3. Deception Island. Deception Island is, without a doubt, the most mysterious place in all of Antarctica. The island began as a whaling station and has been abandoned, inhabited, and abandoned several times over. To this day, the deserted shells of buildings, boats, and massive pieces of whaling equipment remain scattered across the island. But setting up shop in such a remote area is risky business. Deception Island is also an active volcano, and so it's no wonder that so many endeavors are abandoned and left to decay beneath the Antarctic snow. The island erupted twice within a span of just 2 years, which demolished most of the abandoned research facilities left behind by South American countries, as well as Spain and the United Kingdom. Even the cemetery, filled with nearly 50 bodies of deceased whalers, was buried in ash. This place has a tumultuous and mysterious history that is only deepened by the bland remoteness of it. Today, Deception Island is used only as a scientific outpost and as a tourist attraction. Of course, it's also home to a lot of happy penguins. Number 2. Body Ghost Town. The Body Ghost Town is now a historic park in California, but at one point had a population of almost 10,000 people. In the Old West, that was a massive number of inhabitants. The town was originally named after Waterman S. Body, who had discovered gold in the hills near Mono Lake. In 1875, people began flocking to Body to rake up as much gold as possible. However, the gold rush didn't last forever, and the town was eventually abandoned. Only a few small pieces of the town survived, along with a handful of ghosts. The decline began near the turn of the century. The gold went dry, people began to move away, and by 1915, Body was described as a ghost town. It's not clear exactly what type of horrors unfolded during the 2 decades of gold digging that went on there, but considering the staggering number of ghost sightings reported by visitors, you can expect there were a lot of deaths and most likely quite a bit of depravity. The exact circumstances surrounding the town's abandonment are still a little mysterious, and you can't really understand the spooky aura of the place until you visit yourself. Just be warned, the ghosts most often come out at night. Number 1. Dragsholm Castle. The Dragsholm Castle is the most haunted place in all of Denmark. It's not a castle in the traditional sense, there are no ramparts or drawbridges. It was originally built as a palace in 1215, and there are apparently at least 100 ghosts still wandering its corridors to this very day. The most famous hauntings include Earl of Bothwell, the White Lady, and the Grey Lady. The first was a troublesome lord, the second was a girl who had been bricked inside of the wall and left to die, and the third is a complete enigma. After 800 years of history, it should be no surprise that this eerie residence has its share of specters. Aside from ghosts, there is still a lot to know about Dragsholm Castle. During the Dano-Swedish War of 1658 to 1660, the Swedish king tried to destroy the castle by blowing it up. It didn't work, but the structure was still badly damaged. It sat in complete ruins for several decades. The king eventually gave the castle to a nobleman who restored it to the shape that we see it in today. The castle was eventually inhabited once more, and up until modern times, its history is a little murky. There have undoubtedly been many mysteries throughout its long years. One of the most popular mysteries is the identity of the Grey Lady, who is apparently a friendly ghost who was done a great favor in life and lives on as a happy spirit trying to assist those who occupy the castle. If you could only visit one of these amazing abandoned places, which would you choose? Number 10. The Internet Spam King. Back in the original days of the internet, there was nothing more annoying than spam. In the early 2000s, spam plagued the internet and annoyed pretty much everyone. And a lot of it was thanks to one extremely hated entrepreneur from Michigan named Alan Ralsky. This guy became known as the Spam King after sending millions of bulk spam emails for all kinds of different businesses to people all over the country. This guy was scum, vermin, and all kinds of other really nasty words. But believe it or not, it would be the people of the internet who got the last laugh. After Alan became ridiculously rich, an article was published on him in a local paper that spotlighted his lavish lifestyle, his mansion, and all kinds of other things. People who hated Alan because of his spam nonsense managed to find out his home address. Then, a whole lot of people got together and decided to send the spam emails to his home. And they even managed to send thousands of pieces of junk mail to his personal email address. But wait until you hear the best part. While sending the Spam King hundreds of pounds of spam every day is pretty good revenge as it is, in 2009, Alan pleaded guilty inside of a federal court for penny stock manipulation. He ended up going to prison for 51 months. In the end, spam slowly lost its punch, but Alan Ralsky remained firmly behind bars. Number 9. The Duel. The story of Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton is one of historical intrigue. There are few tales of political rivalry in the United States quite as legendary as this. It began with Burr and Hamilton serving in the Revolutionary Army under Washington. Both these men had great political careers and high aspirations. Both of them managed to get into high office, and both of them were a little underhanded when it came to how they rose to power. Alexander Hamilton, in particular, was quite good at manipulating the outcome of elections. He made backroom deals that undermined the power of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and even John Adams. But when Alexander Hamilton decided to cross Aaron Burr, it would be Burr who got the last laugh. It all went down when Aaron Burr lost out on his presidency to Thomas Jefferson after Alexander Hamilton helped engineer the decision within the House of Representatives. Aaron Burr accepted his defeat and went on to serve as vice president. But it was afterwards, when he was running for governor of New York, that Hamilton appeared yet again to undermine him. Aaron Burr got so fed up with Hamilton's meddling that he challenged the man to a duel. Keep in mind, this was the early 1800s. In fact, according to the History Channel, it was on July 11th, 1804, that these two men stepped out to duel. And Aaron Burr got the last laugh when he mortally wounded Alexander Hamilton and shut the man up for good. Number 8. Safe from the flood. When you live near the Mississippi River, you absolutely must be able to adapt to your environment. Some residents of Mississippi recently got the last laugh after building some rather unique embankments around their properties to save themselves and their livelihoods from floods. These homes are located in Vicksburg, all of them very close to the Yazoo River, which itself is a tributary to the Mississippi River. Throughout the years, there have been floods getting worse and worse. To keep their homes safe from destruction, farmers and homeowners started to build huge barriers of earth and sand to protect themselves against the floods. Amazingly enough, it worked. These guys really got the last laugh when all their neighbors were too lazy to build embankments and ended up getting their homes and their crops flooded. While those who knew the dangers of flooding and were proactive enough to defend against it were safe on completely dry land, sitting back and laughing it up. Of course, these floods are incredibly dangerous and no laughing matter. They have claimed lives, they have destroyed homes and businesses, and at least 3 million acres of farmland from between Illinois and Louisiana have been decimated by floods in recent years. Number 7. Revenge through song. Revenge is a dish best served through song. At least, that's what my grandpa always used to say. When a Canadian folk pop group named Sons of Maxwell began to tour in Nebraska way back in 2008, they had a pretty unpleasant experience. They were on a United Airlines flight, looking out their window, when they saw the baggage handlers throw their guitars onto the plane haphazardly. Once they landed in Omaha and got to the hotel, the band opened up their instruments to find that some were intact, but one specific guitar had been absolutely destroyed, and all because of the baggage handlers. This guitar was owned by Dave Carroll, and he wanted to be reimbursed for his broken instrument. It took 9 months of talking with customer service for his claim to be denied by United Airlines based on the ridiculous fact that he never showed his guitar to officials in Omaha when he landed. To get revenge, Dave Carroll thought it would be fun to write a series of songs titled United Breaks Guitars. It was a huge success. This guitarist got the last laugh after he uploaded his 3 songs about United Airlines onto YouTube, where they went viral and collected at least 4 million views in just under a month. This may seem like nothing important, but within just 4 days of the initial video's launch, the stocks for United Airlines dropped in value by $180 million. They may have ruined his guitar, but Carroll helped to ruin their stock value. Number 6. Dr. Crippen and the Last Laugh. The story of Dr. Holly Crippen is about as notorious as it gets. It's also quite complicated, so stay with me for a minute as I detail this amazing story of revenge from beyond the grave. Dr. Crippen was a homeopathic doctor residing in London, England with his wife, who happened to be a concert singer and much richer than he. His wife soon discovered that he was having an affair, she confronted him, then she went missing and was never seen from or heard from again. According to the story from the History Press, Dr. Crippen told his friends and others that knew his wife that she had fallen sick and then died during a performance overseas in Los Angeles. Dr. Crippen then sold off all the jewelry that his wife had owned, tidied up his affairs, and moved to the United States. However, he definitely did not get away with murder. After Dr. Crippen left, Scotland Yard took it upon themselves to investigate. They searched his home and found a body in his cellar. Assuming it was the body of his dead wife, Dr. Crippen was arrested and then hanged in the year 1910. But here's the kicker. It wasn't until 2007 that the case was truly solved. Forensic evidence proved in the 21st century that the body found in Dr. Crippen's basement was not actually his wife. It had been the corpse of an unknown man who Dr. Crippen also may have murdered. The thought now is that the good doctor successfully got rid of his wife's dead body, but was then caught for a completely different murder. In the end, it was his dead wife who got her last laugh from beyond the grave. Number 5. Sheriff gets last laugh. There's nothing better than getting the last laugh in a dispute on social media. This is especially true for Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd, who wasted no time in confronting a career criminal who had previously taunted him on the social media platform Facebook. Sheriff Judd went on Facebook to announce the arrest of a criminal named Cedric Carr from Mulberry. But he did this in a slightly different way than usual. He actually posted a before and after picture of the criminal. The before image was a montage of pictures that had originally been posted on Carr's Facebook page, in which he taunted Judge Grady for not being able to capture him. The after photo was the mugshot of Carr, taken after he had been captured for selling meth. The picture quickly went viral, everyone applauded the sheriff for his good sense of humor, and he definitely got the last laugh with Cedric Carr locked safely behind bars. Number 4. The Wedding Crasher. Everyone dreams of getting sweet revenge on an ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend. This is especially true if that individual cheated or otherwise did something awful. Well, a groom ended up having the last laugh after he got the sweetest revenge imaginable on his bride during their wedding. Here's how it happened. The groom orchestrated the entire thing. The wedding was going as planned, family members and loved ones were in attendance, and everything seemed perfectly fine. Then the groom showed a video with various clips of the couple's relationship. Without any notice, the video suddenly cut into a footage of the bride walking into a hotel room with a different man. The video then went on to show the bride engage in extremely inappropriate behavior with this other man. As reported by local news outlets in Singapore, the groom was a wealthy businessman with enough money to hire a private investigator a few weeks before the wedding because he had suspected his soon-to-be wife was cheating. It turned out to be true. The private investigator got the video evidence, and the groom played the whole thing at the wedding to embarrass and humiliate his cheating wife-to-be. The cheater then ran out of the room, and that was the end of that. Number 3. The Sweetest Revenge. Let's flip the script on the next one and check out a woman who got revenge on her cheating boyfriend. This is definitely the sweetest revenge a person can get, and it didn't even involve humiliating or embarrassing anybody. This woman was in a relationship with her boyfriend for about 3 years. Let's call her Jade from Scotland. Jade and her boyfriend were engaged to be married. Everything was going well, it seemed like a perfect match. Then Jade's boyfriend, out of the blue, traveled 188 miles to cheat on her with a random girl he met on Facebook. Amazingly enough, the girl that the boyfriend cheated with was also cheating on her own boyfriend. It was a very complicated affair. But here's where the amazing revenge comes in. All parties found out, everyone was devastated, then the people who had gotten cheated on ended up hooking up. Jade got her revenge by marrying the boyfriend of the woman that her boyfriend had been cheating on. As of recently, when Jade shared this information with people on TikTok, they had been married for 7 years. And that's why it's the sweetest revenge, as they are living happily while the cheaters are undoubtedly miserable. Jade really did get the last laugh, and so did her husband. Number 2, a ruined career. High school is the worst time of any human being's life. It's miserable, kids are terrible, and nobody needs a bad teacher making things worse. And yet, the world is full of bad teachers. Let's take this next story for example, of an algebra teacher in 12th grade who used to bully one of her students. Apparently, the student got so fed up with being bullied by her mean teacher every day that she eventually got the teacher fired. She purchased a tape recorder and secretly recorded the teacher being rude and arrogant to her in class. The student then got the last laugh when she took the recordings home and put them all together to create one master tape of her teacher being completely inappropriate. Then, the student played the tape of her teacher to the school administrators, who were stunned and appalled by what they heard. According to the student, who did eventually graduate in 2001, the teacher was fired and never heard from again. This is after over a decade of teaching. I suppose the teacher must have just gotten fed up with the students and took out her misery on the young girl in her class. In any case, you can bet that this rude teacher's life only got worse after that. Number 1, graduation success. They say words are the ultimate weapon, but they can also be the ultimate motivator. Devon Reeder began college with a pretty poor start. When he first began taking classes at Eastern Michigan University, his stepfather was extremely optimistic about his chances of success. According to the inspirational report from Fox 8 News, Devon's stepfather told him that it was pointless to even go to the orientation and that he would never graduate. But of course, he definitely did graduate, and the story of what unfolded afterwards is absolutely amazing. Devon Reeder was the oldest of 4 children, all raised by a single mother. He had lost his academic scholarship before heading off to school and had only made it there because of perseverance and determination. He ended up earning a degree in criminal justice, And after his graduation, he made a post on Twitter about how his stepfather had never thought he would graduate. And yet, 4 years after his stepfather spoke those words, Devon was graduating and his stepfather was sitting in jail behind bars. Devon really got the last laugh in this one. He is going to be a successful and happy member of society, while the stepfather who bashed him and tried to put him down will continue rotting away in prison. What's one example of a time you got the last laugh? Number 10. The Bedazzled iPhone case. A black belt buckle was recently discovered from the depths of the Russian Atlantis. Of course, this isn't the legendary Atlantis, but it is a special archaeological site located in southern Siberia that is underwater for most of the year, making it nearly impossible for archaeologists to study. And yet, a recent dig unveiled a black belt buckle studded with jewelry that honestly looks like an iPhone case. The black rectangle is about 7 inches in length. But no, it didn't come with a charging cord. It also wasn't manufactured in Korea. The belt buckle was made from a type of black gemstone derived from pressurized wood. And it's not bedazzled like an iPhone case either. It's actually inlaid with small beads of turquoise and mother of pearl. This discovery was made by scientists with the Institute for the History of Material Culture, lying across the pelvis of the ancient skeleton of a woman. And yes, at first glance, it appears as though she put her cell phone on her lap and then died. But this isn't a relic from the future. It's just an extremely impressive belt buckle. Number 9. Texas time travel. Next up, we have the London Hammer, an ordinary old hammer that may have come from millions of years in the past. It was found in London, Texas, way back in 1936 by a man named Max Hahn while out walking with his wife. He found the hammer trapped inside of a piece of stone that is apparently 400 million years old. The obvious question here is, how could that possibly be true? Our ancient ancestors definitely weren't using modern tools 400 million years ago, and so the discovery of this artifact has really been boggling scientists for nearly a century. Is this an artifact from the past that was really from the future? The answer is probably not. The hammer was probably from the 1800s and likely got stuck inside of a growing concretion of soluble materials. This means that the minerals continued to solidify around the head of the hammer, giving it the appearance of being trapped inside of a rock since the time of the first dinosaurs. Number 8. Ancient Chinese robots. Ancient robots that appear to be from the future were actually first developed in China hundreds and hundreds of years ago. In fact, the history of robotics can be traced back to the Northern Qi dynasty of 550 to 557 AD. In the ancient Chinese book, Stories of Government from the People, there are accounts of amazing mechanical engineering that seem impossible. For example, there are relatively authentic accounts of a robot that would dance and present drinks to men with a bow. And yet, nobody could detail or replicate the secret mechanism that made the robot work. Another strange thing about this robot is that it apparently didn't look like a typical person of Chinese ethnicity, leading some historians to believe the robot was somehow engineered or handed over by someone from a faraway land, or even outer space, or the future. Number 7. The first vending machine. Someone named the Hero of Alexandria invented the first known vending machine on Earth. This relic definitely looks like it came from the future. In fact, the first vending machine was such an impressive technological marvel that it would look totally at home on the streets of Japan today. As for the Hero of Alexandria, he was born into a Greek colony in the ancient city of Alexandria, way back in 10 AD. To make this futuristic piece of technology even more impressive, it was actually coin-operated. It worked in the exact same way that vending machines around the world still work. But unlike the vending machines that you find in airports and on the streets, this one did not dispense yummy snacks or refreshing beverages. Instead, the very first vending machine ever was put into a temple and used for dispensing holy water. When the coin was put into the slot, the mechanism inside would engage and a small bottom would open with a squirt of holy water dispensed for your purification. Number 6. The Iron Claw. The Iron Claw of Archimedes is something you'd expect to find in a science fiction movie. The claw, at its core, was a massive piece of defensive machinery designed to defend the walls of Syracuse from any possible naval assault, and actually devastated the Roman fleet when they attempted to attack the city. At least, this is according to the Greek historian Polybius, who described the iron claw as a massive iron hand swung down using a chain and a crane. The hand would be guided down to an attacking ship, where it would then grab the vessel by its stern and turn it upright, flipping the ship vertical and completely destroying it. The Iron Claw was a weapon way ahead of its time, and it was apparently utilized in the Second Punic War of 214 BC to destroy over 60 ships under the command of Marcus Marcellus. And yet, Archimedes had even more futuristic weapons up his sleeve, including a laser beam. He managed to fashion a giant mirror to the city walls, which could be used to focus the light of the sun and set ships ablaze. The mirror was even immortalized in action by the Florentine archaeologist Giulio Parigi in a painting he made between 1571 and 1635, though it's unclear if this painting was accurate in its portrayal. Number 5. Spark Plug from the Future. There is one very strange artifact that has been boggling scientists ever since its discovery 60 years ago. The artifact was found by a trio of men searching for rare rocks in the mountains of eastern California. They found a small stone mass, only about 3 inches in length, that they believed to be a spark plug from the past and from the future. The issue with this is that the alleged spark plug was found inside of a piece of rock dated to be 500,000 years old. The electronic device was either taken to the past in someone's time machine or delivered by aliens while visiting the planet. Then again, it could be proof of an ancient civilization with access to advanced technology, which has since been erased from the Earth. An X-ray was even taken of this object that showed it to contain a metal pin, something that would be impossible in nature. This object became known as the Coso artifact, and it's currently on display at the Pacific Science Center. According to Pierre Stromberg, a software manager very interested in the artifact, the metal pin inside of it is indisputable proof of advanced knowledge of metallurgy by someone. However, we still don't know exactly who that ancient someone was. Number 4. The Greek laptop. A very strange ancient piece of technology has recently been spotted on a Greek funeral grave marker. This grave marker dates back to about 100 BC, and it's currently sitting in the J. Paul Getty Museum in Malibu. It depicts the deceased individual, in this case a woman, lounging in her home. But what's really captivating about the grave marker is that the woman appears to be looking at a laptop. The laptop is being held by a young girl, almost as if presenting the woman with the advanced piece of technology. As indicated by the clothes and hairstyle of the young girl, she was certainly a slave. This was very common for grave markers of the day, but the laptop definitely is not. And while scholars want you to believe that the woman is simply touching a small chest, perhaps filled with jewelry, the truth is that nobody knows because nobody was there when it happened. It very well could be a laptop from the future that simply came into the possession of this wealthy Greek woman for reasons unexplainable and has since been lost in time. Number 3. 800-year-old cell phone. An ancient cell phone has just been discovered, and experts are saying it's 800 years old and was left behind by aliens visiting Australia. Of course, the experts who say this are experts in conspiracies, but it's a fascinating story nonetheless. Archaeologists apparently found the ancient cell phone somewhere in Australia, though as reported by the Daily Mail, there are not any clues as to where the dig happened or which archaeological organization was involved. This has led some people to say that the futuristic artifact is nothing more than a hoax. But don't be so quick to judge. The strange cell phone, complete with what appears to be alien numbers on the keys, could very well have been the prototype for the first cell phones that came out in the 21st century. People are always wondering where cell phone technology came from, and this artifact could very well be it. Number 2. Technology of the future. Speaking of futuristic technology that may have been around since ancient civilizations, a strange carving located at the Sun Temple in Modhera, India, crafted over 1,000 years ago, has revealed some very bizarre secrets. Pictures were recently placed online that showed statuettes of women at the temple holding what appears to be cell phones and tablets. At first glance, it really appears as though these ancient Indians were carved yapping on their cell phones and probably swiping on their ancient applications. However, there might not be as much truth to this as meets the eye. If you actually zoom in on the picture, you can clearly see one of the women is holding a ruler, just like you would use in school today. You can even see the markings on the ruler. But this is exciting in and of itself, as it shows that ancient people were smart enough that they could measure stone accurately using tools, which honestly explains how many ancient buildings just like this temple in India were crafted with such precision. It may not have been aliens that built the pyramids. It may have been ladies with rulers and clay tablets filled with measurements. Number 1. Ancient Maya space pilots. It turns out that the Maya people may have been in contact with aliens, and there are even artifacts that have been discovered to back up the hypothesis. One of the most striking artifacts that shows that the ancient Maya could have had contact with aliens comes from the Mexican city of Palenque, where the illustration of an ancient tombstone shows someone who could have been the legendary King Pakal piloting some kind of primitive aircraft to the heavens. Indeed, one quick look shows a control board, an oxygen mask, a jet engine, and even flames coming out of rocket nozzles. Many expert scientists believe that this ancient artwork shows the Maya king blasting off with aliens, but the primitive artists transcribed what they saw using their own traditional artwork. This created a blend of advanced technology from the future and typical Maya shapes and geometries. Either this artwork is indeed evidence of an alien encounter, or the artists who carved this tombstone had their own look into the future. Either way, it's very compelling. What are your thoughts on ancient technology and the possibility of alien life? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and thanks for stopping by. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and come back soon.